Manchester, and they've got an update, I think, with regards to result. Colo, we got you down the line.
You do indeed. The news from Old Trafford is that Australia have retained the Ashes. The match officials have gone into the dressing room just now. The captains have shaken hands. Not the way Australia would have wanted to have retained the urn in a draw where England had the better of them, but due to the hard work at Edgbaston and Lords, they earned the right to have luck break their way, as it has this week. Australia are 2-1 up in the series with 1 to go, and therefore with the score at 5 for 214 at the close of play last night. Not a ball bowled on the 5th day, but it's enough for Australia to retain the Ashes in England as they did 4 years ago. Daniel Norcross.
It is, and fair play to them. You know, they played a fantastic game at Edgbaston. They held on when England were getting ahead of them, and they just didn't let England win that game. It's all come down in many ways really to that partnership between Cummins and Lyon. England didn't play canny enough cricket in that game, and Australia did. And actually, they dominated the Lord's Test, really, apart from a brief passage when Nathan Lyon went off, but England threw it away in that game. Thereafter, England have been on top, you would say, but that's been the nature of the series. It's been really good contest between both sides. The disappointment, just for cricket fans generally, is that we had a right humdinger lined up for the Oval next week. That'll still have importance. It'll have importance for some of these older guys in the Australian team who won't be coming back, who have never won a series in England. They'll still want to win it. But, you know, hats off. Congratulations to Australia. They played the first part of the series better than England did, and that's why they've retained the Ashes.
Jeremy Coney.
Yeah, disappointing and deflating perhaps, particularly in the Ashes. When you're ahead in a test match and rain intervenes to prevent you with at least an opportunity to sort of finish it off. No one knows now whether Australia would have held out for those, how many overs might have been played. But yeah, look, the fact of it is England's problem was they had lost the first 2 games, and in particular the one that Daniel's mentioned, the Birmingham test match, should at least have been a draw. Now they've said they don't like draws, and they're happy, they felt as if they won that match. Well, you know, and you've got this whole shtick that's actually coming from England, and it is that Broad's piece says it's unjust that they should lose the Ashes this way. Well, I'm afraid justice doesn't come into sporting events, and the fact of it is, Rain decides for years who wins and who loses test matches. Rain has won test matches in the uncovered periods of uncovered pitches for years, and Rain has prevented teams winning for years. So that's nothing new. It's been done in the past, and if you think that Broad, who's the mouthpiece, Broad and Anderson have probably taken lots of wickets when it's just raining and right throughout their period of time. So yeah, look, it's bad luck. As far as next week is concerned, I think if England forge ahead and win the next test at the Oval, then they might have something to say after the 5th test and they win it, that they might morally at least have won it, even if not numerically.
Bharat, Sundaresan, we've heard a lot from Pat Cummins about this being a generation-defining tour. They won the World Test Championship. They've retained the Ashes, but they won't feel thoroughly satisfied this evening. There'll be no celebrations like there were 4 years ago. They want to win here for the first time in 22 years.
Just looking at Pat Cummins' face when it came up on the television, when the umpire shook his hands, yeah, there was a bit of a grimace on his face. He just almost acknowledged the fact that the game is over, but there was no celebration. It didn't feel like a victory because they've been comprehensively outplayed in this test match, and they've hung on. Credit to Australia, they had that difficult period to bat out yesterday when they'd already lost 4 wickets, and now that Marnus Labuschagne 100 becomes a match-saving one. I mean, you can say, oh no, but they didn't have play at all on day 5, but they hung on for those 30-odd overs, which was crucial in the end. And Brendan McCullum apparently told the team, and picking this up from Stuart Broad's column, that we're too lucky to get wet. We're too lucky to get rained on. So there will be play on Sunday. For once, Baz McCullum is wrong.
You know, we're focusing an awful lot on how unlucky England are, but I feel actually for the Australian players, because they have retained the Ashes and they're not doing it to any kind of fanfare at all, because these are unsatisfactory circumstances for highly competitive elite athletes to win anything in, and it doesn't happen in any other sport, does it? You don't win the World Cup after you've just been trounced in a match, as a general rule. You win it because you get more goals, or same for any kind of sport. Here in England, because we're playing this Ashes over 5 test matches, you can win something when you kind of feel like you haven't. So I just hope for their sake that they get the opportunity at the Oval to get some kind of satisfaction. And I hope that they're going to be really up for it. I hope both teams are going to be. I actually think England are in bigger danger of being utterly deflated because they have a certain mystique about what they do, don't they? A bit like what you were talking about. They were too lucky to get rained on. Well, that bubble has burst, I'm afraid, like the clouds in the sky. So it's going to be interesting to see. It'd be very interesting to see the composition of both sides as well. I think Australia are going to go hard for the win. Will England, will their bowlers be a bit depleted? Will they think, it's not really worth it? I hope not. I think I would like to see that last game be really competitive and for whoever wins it to get some satisfaction as a sportsman.
Just briefly on the machinations of the last couple of hours or so, they've just peeled back the covers in front of us here and there is so much water. I've rarely seen a ground this wet. The very fact that we went until 5:20 local time. Jeremy, we were doing the back of a coaster maths on why that might have been. We got told yesterday from Josh Hazlewood that they needed 90 clear minutes to get the ground ready for play. Well, that would have meant getting on for 10 minutes at 6:50 and once that little window had expired, they were happy to shake the hands. And I think your point there, Daniel, about England's bubble being burst is a strong one, that they'll go to the Oval next week. Yes, sure, they have the opportunity to square the series, and that's not for nothing, but Australia have all the motivation to have now gone through this slightly unusual experience to go down to London, where they've got a good record historically, Jeremy, albeit perhaps not so much at the Oval, but they did win the World Test Championship there about 6 weeks ago to put a full stop on this tour.
Oh, I think both sides have that. I'm really hopeful that, that Australia will do exactly as you've just described, and that England will feel exactly the same way. We were robbed in that last match. Now we'll show you in this last test, and this is what would have happened to you if we had the chance to beat you there.
That's a good point.
And England have pretty much said, even Stuart Broad, that they have been the better side throughout this Ashes series. The results might not say so, but in that case, they after Edgbaston they said we lost, but no, actually we felt like we won this test 1-0. They lose at Lord's, they didn't say anything about that. They did win in Headingley, that's 2-1. They're claiming that they have won here because otherwise it's unjust. So in their heads, they're almost 3-1 ahead. But the Ashes has been retained by Australia.
And that's not
sorry, Stuart.
And that's not accepted. That's not even acknowledging what happened at Lord's with the stumping, which they had a 2-0 lead in the Moral Ashes, according to the way they were seeing it. We're hearing a lot of hooting and hollering beneath us here. I think there are some Australian fans still here waiting for the presentation. There are still about 20 people underneath the hospitality boxes.
What are they waiting for?
And there was one man stuck up the top there in the top left-hand corner. He's gone now in the temporary permanent stand. He was there all the way through with an umbrella.
Yeah, aren't Lancashire playing Northant shortly?
On Tuesday, yes. They're in early for the county championship. That's the only explanation. So we will take the presentation when it's ready to roll. From an Australian selection perspective, they've got some tired boys in that group now who've bowled a lot of overs. They only bowled once in the test match, but that 592, 107 overs, they went at 5.5 and over. I wonder how structurally they might consider their 11. Michael Nisa hasn't played in the series. He's been in the squad throughout. He would constitute fresh legs and someone who can contribute with both bat and ball.
Mitchell Stark's fitness, he struggled with all parts of his body, his shoulder, his hamstring. He came through that fitness session. He's been Australia's best bowler during this series, and he bowled more overs than Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood, or at least at a point he bowled more overs. He had bowled more overs than them, and he was the enforcer. So that will come into the picture as well. Scott Boland, you just get a feeling, has played the last test of his series. So they might have to bring in someone like Michael Nisa if, say, Stark doesn't pull up well, or even if Josh Hazlewood, who wants to play every test match, of course, he got a 5-wicket haul, so they'll kind of keep an eye out on him as well. But just to recover from having conceded over 100 runs, and like Josh Hazlewood said, it was the first time they'd experienced something like that under Pat Cummins. And Pat Cummins has been under so much pressure during this test match as well. So in a way, it'll feel like the great escape. Not so much, because the rain kind of did enable them on the way. But they have everything to play for. Steve Smith, David Warner are never going to play a test match again in England.
Does this, Colo and Bharat, does this take a bit of pressure off Cummins now? So you can get to the Oval and go, well, at least the Ashes has been retained, because he looked like a guy really under the pump, actually. In both these last two games, he bowled really well in the first innings at Headingley, but didn't have a great time in the second innings. And in this innings, I've never seen Pat Cummins look ordinary, and he looked ordinary, and largely because I think there's been so much going on. It was a 5th test running. There's so much riding on it. He had a certain haggard and haunted expression, which I think just comes from just constant pressure of being captain. But now a bit of that's gone, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, the thing with Pat Cummins is he tends to give fairly forthright answers at his press conferences after a test match. So the fact that we'll get a chance to speak to him, Bharat, you'll be downstairs soon enough doing that, and the press conference that will follow. I expect he'll acknowledge that he's been tired. That this has taken a lot out of him, and getting to this point, ensuring that they won't leave England losing the Ashes. I agree. I share the view that it will be a relief and will provide a little bit of clear air ahead of the Oval. I wouldn't say next week's a free hit. That'd be stretching the friendship, but it does give them an opportunity to go to the Oval without all the pressure on their shoulders of potentially losing, having been 2-0 up. Of course, that's only happened once before, as we've reflected on constantly in the last 2 weeks in 36-37. And the other part of this is that Ashes series historically have been where senior players have leapt off. They've leapt off the merry-go-round and said, that's enough for me. I know we have the World Test Championship as a way of dividing Test cricket cycles these days, which should be considered on the way through. But the fact that we're at the start of one of those cycles and the end of an Ashes cycle in England, they've talked about bucket lists a lot, Bharat. We know David Warner wants to go through until Sydney next year. We've got the presentation about to start. We'll just keep chatting until that comes through from Channel 9. But yes, whether Warner might be interested in bringing that forward and finishing up at the Oval next week, whether he might have some mates doing the same thing.
If they do win this test match, what a better way to go out than to be part of the first Australian team to win a test series, not just retain the Ashes on English soil in 22 years. And, there's that. I'm sure there's a temptation to go out in front of friends and family at the SCG against Pakistan, but it couldn't get better than this.
So the presentation started downstairs. I don't think it's quite kicked in Australia via television, so we won't be far away from being able to pick that up courtesy of Channel 9. I'm sure they'll tell me down the line when it's ready to fade up there. I can tell you that Zach Crawley is the player of the match, and fair enough too. I mean, Jeremy Coney, he walked out at the start of the series. I mean, I described it as the last man on the team sheet. In truth, he probably wasn't the last man on the team sheet. They've shown immense faith in the tall opener on the basis that he could do something like that and play a defining role in an Ashes test against a high-quality attack, and he did.
Opened the game up, didn't he, for England? And kept it going for so long. It was amazing how he was able to do that, considering some of the luck that he had. But it's easy to focus on that luck. I think he played some very impressive strokes, particularly the drive through the offside. As far as the next game's concerned, I think Australia, we don't want to see them in disarray again. No. So they've got a few days to sort of discuss some little thoughts about if this happens again, we've got some other options available to us. I think that's a must.
Thank you, Jeremy. We've got the presentation being faded up. Thanks to Channel 9.
Just give us a sense of the disappointment in the England dressing room right now.
Yeah, it's pretty flat up there. Obviously, we were in a good position to win this game, and unfortunately, the weather's cost us a bit. So, we're disappointed, but we know we've played a lot of good cricket, and we go on to the next one and keep building as a side, which we're doing well at the moment.
Is that sense of injustice heightened because of how well you played in this game over 3 days?
I think so. I think the fact that we played a lot of good cricket in the first 3 days put ourselves a chance to win it on day 3, and then maybe had a chance to win it yesterday, and then the rain cost us on both occasions. So we had a few chances, but we played really, really well as a team. So it's disappointing.
Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about your 189, your best innings for England.
Yeah, I'd say so. Considering the importance of the match, it has to be the most my favourite one. And I was very pleased how I played. I've rode my luck at times, but played really nicely. So I was happy.
And over the series, I think you're the leading run scorer in the series now. So not just this game, but have you been happy with your contributions throughout the series?
Yeah, I felt in good touch all series, to be honest, and I haven't quite had that score yet. And I just had to keep sticking with the process, and I felt like there was a score coming, and thankfully it came this game.
You seem to be playing with great calmness at the start. I wonder whether, with Australia setting the fields back, you've been allowed to kind of tick over the strike, whether that's helped you in a way that you've not felt the pressure to have to score early boundaries and get the innings going at your normal rate.
I think where it's helped me is that I haven't been stuck down one end against some high-quality bowlers. They haven't had a chance really to set me up as such. But they've cost me a few boundaries as well with the men back. So it's it works both ways a little bit. But I've tried to take my time a bit more at the start with a few more singles and then pick up my fours when I move in.
You mentioned the high-quality attack. How much confidence will you take from the fact that these runs have been scored against what is probably the best seam attack going around?
Yeah, I take a lot of confidence from it, absolutely. Like you say, that every bowler I face in the series from their side's been high quality, and you know, you never really get a let up at any point. So to get a score like that, I was take a lot into it next game and further on in my career.
Ben Duckett missed out here, but it's been a productive opening partnership generally in the series.
Absolutely, Ben's a phenomenal player. I mean, when he came back into the side in the winter last year, I didn't realise actually how good he was. And it was just seeing him score so many runs, and I love batting with him, and we're very different, and I think that works really well. So yeah, long may it continue.
Disappointment here today, but one game left in the series. England have a proud record, having not been beaten by Australia at home for more than 20 years. You'll be aware of that in the dressing room?
Absolutely, every game is massively important for us at the moment. Like we say, we're going well as a side, we've just got to keep building, and next game, you know, absolutely, it'd be nice to get back to 2-2.
Well played here, fantastic innings.
Thank you.
And now for a few words with the captain of England, Ben Stokes.
Ben, no doubt you'd have had that dream that all England captains have of lifting the urn at the Oval. It is not going to be. How disappointed are you today?
Yeah, it's a tough one to take. You know, playing the cricket that we managed to play over the first 3 days, and you know, to get on the wrong side of the weather, it's a tough one. But yeah, I guess it's all part of the journey.
Let's look at this game then. Have you played in a game where you feel you've dominated Australia as you did over 3 days here?
No, I think coming into this game, obviously knowing what we needed to do and the tasks that we had at hand, sort of played into our hands a little bit. It was, again, another do or die game for us, and you know, obviously winning the toss, bowling Australia out for 320, then, you know, scoring 570 at nearly 6 runs and over. I don't think we could have done too much. So yeah, it's one of those that'll sort of just be tough to look back on, but you know, we know we still got one more game in the series, and you know, like 2019, we ended up, you know, tying the series, and obviously Australia still returned the urn, but you know, we've got a lot of pride to play for in the next game still.
Bittersweet trip to the north with great results at Headingley and what's happened here, but the two players who've come in, you mentioned bowling Australia out, Chris Wokes and Mark Wood, they've made a considerable difference to your team. Yeah,
they've been unbelievable. You know, I think the injury to Popey obviously made us have to think about our sort of, you know, structure of the team, and bringing someone in like Wokes, he offers you so much with the ball, and a lot with the bat down the order obviously helped. And yeah, it's great seeing lads come in, you know, who haven't started off the series and doing so well. So you know, very pleased with everyone's efforts who's managed to walk out on the field so far in the series. But yeah, look, we know we've still got one game left, and we want to go away with a win from that one.
Just touch on another couple of players, if I may. We just chatted to Zach Crowley. As a player, you've had to show unbelievable faith and patience in. Is that being rewarded now?
Oh, look, I think I've been very vocal around anything that's been, you know, thrown at me about Zach. You know, I've said a few times that I pick players for what they can do on their best days, and you know what Zach does at the top of the order is he changes games. You know, the way that he plays, the way that he takes the bowling on, he's gonna, if he does stay at the crease for any length of time, he's going to influence the game in a positive way. And look, that innings this week was just incredible viewing. You know, seeing him, you know, dominate whatever Australia throw at him was just incredible to see. And we've known that an innings like that was never far away, and it just shows what you can do when you back players with an ability that you sort of see on a day-to-day basis rather than just out there on the playing field.
And standing here as a bowler who's carrying a few injuries around, you'll know what it's like. The effort to play 160 tests as Stuart Broad has and take 600 wickets, a remarkable achievement.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, himself and Jimmy have just been, you know, unbelievable examples of, you know, international sportsmen sort of can accomplish in their careers. You know, it's a lot of warm-ups, that's for sure. But Brody's been a quality performer. He loves walking out there and representing England. He loves the battle, and he obviously loves playing against Australia. I think he's also the leading wicket taker in Ashes. So, yeah, it's amazing to have someone like Stuart Broad on your team. You know you're only around the corner from one of those crazy spells that he seems to keep on delivering.
A cruel outcome here. You left yourself with little margin for error, having gone 2-0 down, and little margin for error with the weather, I suppose. Any lingering regrets over that first game in particular at Edgbaston, which you could have easily turned around?
No.
Last game at the Oval to come, you've got a proud record against Australia. 20 years here that Australia haven't been beaten England, so lots to play for.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we know what this last game means to us as a team, and obviously, you know, we'd love to finish off the Test match summer with another win. You know, we've been supported unbelievably well so far this summer, and we hope that the crowds come out and watch us play, and we can walk away with a win.
So for a better ending than we got here. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Alice. Cheers, mate.
And time now to speak with the Australian captain, Pat Cummins.
Pat, I suppose a captain's first job when you hold the Ashes in a 5-test match series is to retain them, first of all. Job done.
Yeah, I mean, our preference is to come over here and win the Ashes, but yeah, it's nice to retain it. Obviously not the best of circumstances, but yeah, it's something the group should be pretty proud of.
Is it a slight anticlimactic feeling for you as well? I mean, you came here 4 years ago, picked yourselves up off the floor after Headingley, won a great game here, and I'm sure you can remember the scenes out in the middle as well. It's very different today.
Yeah, I mean, the results are the same, but it does feel really different. That was right down to the wire. Yeah, we've kind of all, you know, when we turned up here this time, very much wanted to win it. It's a pretty similar squad to that 2019, so whatever happened here today doesn't really change the way we look at the Oval next week.
As a fast bowler, you may not have grown up dreaming of captain in Australia, I guess. I don't know, it's quite a rare thing. But once captain, it's everybody's dream, surely, to stand at the Oval or Sydney or wherever and hold the Ashes up, which you will get that chance in a week's time. Is that something you dreamed of?
Yeah, probably only in the last year or two, really, since becoming captain. I know for this group, you know, it's been an amazing group. We've had a really similar team for the last couple of years, and we've all turned up here pretty motivated. So, yeah, it'll be a special moment at the Oval. Again, even more special if we get a win next week.
Can I ask about this game here? England rattled along over 5 and over, 600 on the board. How difficult did you find that middle session in particular as captain, when I think England scored 178 in 25 overs?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I thought the guys out there batted really well. We tried a few different plans that didn't you know, come off this time. And yeah, it's tough. You know, you throw a few different things at them, doesn't work. So yeah, we'll look at that. We're at our best, probably with some planning and also particularly execution. So yeah, we'll hopefully be better for next week. But they played fantastically on that second day.
And you, as a fast bowler and captain, you've played in the 5 test matches now out of 6, one more to come. You conceded a lot of runs in that innings. How's the body playing 5 in a row?
I feel pretty good, actually. Yeah, having a bit of a break leading into the series, I think's helped. You know, I haven't bowled many balls in between matches. I think probably haven't bowled as many overs compared to, say, 2019. So I feel in a really good place. So yeah, wasn't at my best this week, but be right for next one.
And your spirit was shown by Marnus Labuschagne in the second innings. He's been threatening for a while, but finally produced that 100.
Yeah, he was fantastic, you know, along with Marshy yesterday. But yeah, had a real flow to his innings. I thought he was fantastic. You know how hard he works when he gets a chance, and yeah, good to show his class out there.
And you mentioned a very similar squad to 4 years ago. That missing bit on the CV is a winning series in England. How hard are you going to be going?
Yeah, that's it. That's what we've all turned up to do. You know, try and achieve. It's what we've spoken about. So, yeah, retaining is nice, but fully focused on trying to get the win.
Okay, we'll look forward to seeing you there. Well done.
Thank you, Tup.
So Pat Cummins at the presentation. The player of the match was, as expected, Zach Crawley, and Ben Stokes. He was clearly hurting. He said that, you know, that they thought this was their major opportunity, but Reigns denied them today. He spoke about Zach Crawley and picking players for their best days, and I suppose there's some vindication there. And very curtly, you could say, when asked if any lingering regrets about Edgerton, a one-word answer, Daniel: no.
No, well, they're not allowed to have regrets. There might be a more nuanced thing. He might have said, well, you know, that looking back on it, there are things that we wish had panned out differently. But no, they can't. There can be no negative thoughts. You can use a negative word, no, but there must be no negative thoughts. I would like to think that actually in the privacy of his own bedroom or that he might actually be thinking about, did I really need to go quite that hard in the first game of a 5-match series on a pitch? Because actually, you know, he always likes to chase, doesn't he? And he was sort of forced into batting first because, if you remember that very first day, it was a beautiful sunny day. But actually, it was a chasing pitch because it just got so hard to bowl sides out. So He might. His actual regret might be that he didn't just risk bowling first on a perfect batting day, which would be a reasonable regret to have.
Well, he did.
Let's go again.
Well, he did here, didn't he? He took the risk here.
Yeah, and it
this
nearly
looked a
paid off.
nice pitch. Nearly paid off. Should he have batted here?
I don't think they get the 20 wickets, do they?
Well, I don't know.
It is a different way of considering it. If they bat big once,
if they got big, yes, exactly.
And then follow on.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a possibility.
It's a possibility.
Anyway.
As for Pat Cummins, Jeremy, he answered the questions the way I thought he would. He's proud of his group, but the real special moment for them would be winning the series at the Oval, and also acknowledge just how tough it was responding to, let's call it Bazball, with the execution side of things. You can have all the plans you want. What's that old quote from Mike Tyson? You can have all the plans you want till someone punches you in the face. Well, so it played out.
Yes, yeah, I agree with you. So I mentioned that, and I think they should come back at least before that match, have some ideas about what they can do if they get in a similar situation. I think the short ball, that they've got to A, get it higher, and B, they've got to vary it a little bit more than they are at the moment, rather than going every ball short. Even with 5 seamers, they looked a bit, not quite ready for that, I don't think. They're more line length bowlers, and get bowlers the right end. I always felt Green was bowling the wrong end with the wind blowing here across the other way. So I'd like to see more from Green, actually, but all the players have something to work on. If it's Khawaja, it's playing a little bit wide at Wood. Things like that. Or if you went through every player, there are the sort of things they probably feel they could get a little bit better. Let's hope they can do that when they get down to the Oval.
Yeah, that's a point that the Pat Cummins has made throughout the series, that they've got more to give. Daniel, your closing thoughts?
Well, my hope is for the Oval is that the pitch is not a sort of a chairman's pitch. That now that the series is that the Ashes are retained, that the temptation isn't to make sure we get 5 days. I want to see a good, fast-ish oval pitch, and we know from watching a lot of cricket there that on the side of the square that the Test pitch will be, it's been playing pretty well this year in the County Championship. 300 or so is a par score. I want a really good game to finish off what has been a fantastic series. And the sadness of this of this match actually is that when you look back at 2005, it was epic, and it built to even more epic proportions. There'll be a little asterisk next to this one because the first 3 tests were so good and so tight. I hope we just don't sort of fade off towards the back end.
No, I agree with that. Couldn't say it better, actually. So, yep, I'm hoping for that too.
On the way to the Oval we go. That's it from us. We've spent a lot of the day watching rain. Daniel, this is actually your last test with us because you're going back to the other side, the other place next week, which is... I
am. And can I say some thanks?
Please, you do that, and I'll do some thanks as well.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank all my wonderful colleagues here who have been so tolerant of my idiocy. You've been very charming. I'd like to thank our guys back at the ranch because they're up all night, and I know what that's like because I've done that a few times on Ashes series for a variety of different outlets. And, it is not easy. Alex Patterson, Paulie Sebastiani, Mitch Scott, you guys are legends. You've been superb. I'd obviously like to thank our sponsors who make it all worthwhile, and to you, Colo, for helming us all with such acuity and making sure that we're actually here on time and that it all works, because we're pretty useless on that side of things. So we do kind of need other people to do that. But most of all, of course, thank you to our wonderful listeners who keep us company and keep us spurred on with all your texts. And I'm not going to be here next week, but the rest of this mob are, so please keep them coming. The Ashes aren't over yet, kids. Keep on listening.
Beautifully put. You've been a huge addition to our SEN commentary team, and may that continue for many years into the future. So on behalf of Peter Lalor, Bharat Sundaresan, Jarrod, Kimber, Louis Cameron, Andrew Sampson and David Bumble Lloyd, what a joy it's been having Bumble with us this week. He'll be back with us at the Oval next week, as will Jeremy Coney. Daniel, thank you again. My name's Adam Collins, and as you said, our team back in Melbourne, Alex Patterson, Paulie Sebastiani and Mitchell Scott. This has been SEN Ashes Cricket for the Barbecue Bacon Angus at Macca's. Australia retain the Ashes, a draw at Old Trafford.
Next time you consider exploring the unknown, think about upping your game and taking your adventure to the next level with Max's tyres. With a range of four-wheel drive patterns, including